Boise just approved 3 new homes on a single lot over the objections of a dozen neighbors who showed up and said no. Guess what? The city did it anyway. And depending on which side you're on, that's either the bravest thing a local government has done in years, or it's the clearest sign yet that the Boise you thought you knew is being quietly rebuilt around you. Hey guys, I'm Brent Hansen with the City of Trees real estate team here in Boise, Idaho, and I've been working in this market for over 12 years. And I'm going to walk you through the 5 things happening right now with Boise's zoning and housing code that every homeowner, every renter, and every person thinking about moving here needs to understand. Because this isn't just a planning story, it's a property's value story. It's a neighborhood character story, and for a lot of people, it's a pretty personal one too. Now, stick around till the end because number 4 is the one most people in Boise haven't even heard of yet. Now, item number 1, the new zoning code and what it actually does. Now, the first thing to understand is what changed. In 2024, Boise adopted a new modern zoning code. And on paper, the goal was simple: make it easier to build more housing because the city is growing fast and the math isn't working. Now, we're adding people faster than we're adding homes, which isn't good for prices. And what that code actually does is allow denser development in areas that used to be strictly single family. We're talking about cottages, ADUs, small multifamily buildings going up in neighborhoods that used to have 1 house per lot. Now, here's the thing most people don't realize. You can own a home in an established Boise neighborhood. You can have covenants on your property that say the lot can't be subdivided, and the city can still approve a rezoning on a lot next door that puts 3 houses where there used to be 1. Now, that's not a hypothetical. That actually just happened off of Maple Grove Road. 12 residents showed up and said, "This doesn't fit our neighborhood." The city council voted unanimously to approve it anyway. Now, planners describe it as infill that creates a gradual transition between high density and low density. Neighbors describe it as the city shifting the burden of its housing problem onto people who already own homes. Now, both of those definitions are actually accurate. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, but our next issue is where this gets even more complicated. So issue number 2, the question nobody is answering cleanly, is what this does to your property value. The conventional wisdom is that density destroys neighborhood character and therefore home values. And in some cases, that's true. Squeeze 3 small units next to a 1970s ranch home with a big backyard, and it can feel cramped. It can change what the street looks like, and that's real. But here's the other side of that. In markets where density has been allowed, home values in the surrounding areas have often gone up, not down, because more walkability, more mixed use, and more neighborhood activation tends to attract buyers. Think about what happened in the Boise North End over the last 20 years. Density and historic character coexisted and values climbed. Now, if you're trying to figure out what the zoning changes near your neighborhood actually mean for your home's value, just shoot me a text and I'll give you a straight answer based on your specific block, not a general one. And what's not being said clearly in these public meetings is that the answer is not the same everywhere. An ADU behind a home in Collister is a very different situation than a 3-pack of cottages adjacent to a large lot subdivision on the Maple Grove corridor. So if you've been reading the headlines and you're not sure what this means for your street, I'll tell you how to find out in just a moment. But before we get into the third issue, let me just say something. City of Trees Real Estate has helped over 6,500 families navigate Boise real estate. We lived through the 2020 run-up and the 2022 correction, and we're deep in what's happening right now. If you want the kind of perspective that takes years to develop, hit the subscribe button down below and follow us for more information. The content we put out here could genuinely save you from a costly mistake. Now let's move on to the third issue, and this is the pitfall moment where I need to be honest with you. The reason the city is pushing density is real. Boise's median home price is over $500,000. Renters in the Treasure Valley are spending more than 30% of their income on housing on average. The workforce that keeps the city running, teachers, nurses, restaurant staff, construction workers, they can't afford to live in the city they work in. Now, I hear that, and I think most homeowners hear it too, even if they're standing up at a city council meeting opposing a specific project in their specific neighborhood. Now, here's the thing. The tension isn't actually between people who want affordable housing and people who don't. Most people on both sides of this fight want housing to be affordable. The tension is about where that density goes and who decides. When a neighborhood has CC&Rs that limit development and the city overrides the spirit of that with a rezoning, residents feel like the rules changed after they bought in. Now, that's not an unreasonable thing to feel, and while the city gets to say that's a private matter, for the family that bought their home on a large lot partly because of those protections, it doesn't feel like a technicality. And let me tell you, that third issue is nothing compared to what's happening on the eastern edge of the Treasure Valley, where the growth conversation just got completely reframed. So let's do this real quick. Let's jump into the fourth reason, and this is one most people in Boise haven't fully processed yet. The density debate inside the city limits is happening at the same time that the Treasure Valley is expanding outward at a scale most people haven't ever seen. There's a 920-acre mixed-use development announced for Elmore County called Peregrine. Alquist and the Coeur d'Alene tribe are planning a partnership on it, and that site is off Interstate 84 at the Simcoe Road interchange. That's 12 minutes from Micron's Boise campus, 15 minutes from the Boise airport. Now, the developers are describing it as the new eastern border of the Treasure Valley. The site will have an industrial and technology park, a commercial park, and it will be adjacent to a planned residential community that are projected to bring more than 10,000 homes to the area. All of that in a location right now that Boiseans think of as farmland and desert. So here's what that means practically. Boise isn't just densifying inward, it's simultaneously expanding outward at a rate that will fundamentally change what the Treasure Valley looks like in the next decade. Now, people who oppose density inside the city limits will point to this and say, we should grow out, not up. Now, people who support density will say that this is urban sprawl that creates infrastructure costs and car dependency that the region can't sustain. Now, neither side is wrong, by the way. The real estate implication is this. If you're buying in the Treasure Valley right now, the land supply equation is more dynamic than it has been in a really long time. And that affects pricing in ways that are genuinely hard to predict without someone who's tracking all of it. If that's you, shoot me a text. That's exactly the kind of conversation I have with buyers every single week. Now, let's move on to the fifth issue and the one I want to end on, which is a democratic question. When a city council votes unanimously to override neighborhood opposition, is that good government doing what it has to do to solve a real problem? Or is it elected officials dismissing the people they represent? There were residents at the Maple Grove hearing who showed up prepared. They brought data. They cited their CC&Rs. They made arguments about sidewalk infrastructure, about neighborhood fit, and the precedent being set. And the council voted 5-0 to approve it anyway, citing city code. Now, some people will look at that and say, that's exactly how planning is supposed to work. The alternative is letting neighborhoods veto every infill project, which makes the affordability problem impossible to solve. Others will look at it and say that the people who already own homes in Boise have been handed an enormous financial gain from rising values and are now using planning processes to protect those gains by limiting who gets to live near them. Both are happening simultaneously in Boise City Council chambers right now. Now, I don't think either side is evil. I think this is what happens when a city grows faster than the political and planning infrastructure can adapt. And Boise is growing very, very fast. So there you have it. 5 things happening with Boise's zoning and housing that are reshaping what this city looks like, who gets to live here, and what your home is actually worth. The new zoning code is real and it's expanding. The property value impacts are not simple and not uniform. The affordability crisis driving the change is legitimate. The growth is going both inward and outward simultaneously, and the democratic tension underneath all of it is not going away. Look, I'm not going to tell you who's right. That's not my job. My job is to help you understand what's actually happening in this market so you can make a good decision for your family. And if you want to talk through what any of this means for your home, your neighborhood, or a move you're considering, just shoot me a text. I love getting a couple messages a day from people who just watched one of my videos and want to talk through a specific situation. That is what I'm here for. Now, before you click off, check out my video on why Eagle and Meridian are growing in completely different directions. It's a good companion piece to everything we just covered. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.